Good morning and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council's regularly scheduled meeting for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2006. We are in City Council chambers, John Ferraro Council chambers here on the third floor, room 340 of City Hall. We invite members of the public down here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for our 10 a.m. regularly scheduled meeting. We are right now being broadcast live on Channel 35, LA City View, your city channel, and we invite folks to tune in to our rebroadcast in the evening time as well when the entire council meeting is replayed. We want to remind folks that they can come down here to City Hall to testify on general public comment or on items that are before the City Council. And we also have a facility in Van Nuys for folks who find that more convenient to drive to Van Nuys City Hall in order to give testimony from our remote facility there. And we will be beginning this coming month meeting once a month, a regularly scheduled meeting in Van Nuys City Hall as well. We are also broadcast via the internet on the homepage of the city. There's a link, www.lacity.org, where there's a wealth of information about your elected officials, all the business of the City Council and its committees, the mayor, and other citywide elected officials. So you can watch live on a webcast there at lacity.org. And lastly, we are also broadcast on telephone. Folks can call in and listen to the proceedings of the Los Angeles City Council and our committees by calling council phone, and numbers are 213-621-CITY, or in the Valley 818-904-9450, and on the west side 310-471-CITY. In the San Pedro area we have a number as well, 310-547-CITY. And we are awaiting a quorum to begin our regularly scheduled meeting. A quorum is 2/3 of the 15 members. We right now have council members Cardenas, Gruhl, Padilla, Perry, Smith, Wesson, Zine, and myself, Councilmember Garcetti here. Mr. Labange as well. Thank you. That brings us to, I believe, 9 members, so we're waiting one more member, and we'd like to ask Ms. Hahn, Mr. Parks, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Rosendahl, to make their way down to council chambers. Mr. Weiss is excused today, and Mr. Huizar is excused to arrive a few minutes late. So as soon as we have a 10th member, we will begin the meeting. Thank you. Council members Cardenas and Gruhl, Labange, Padilla, Perry, Smith, Wesson, Zine, and Reyes. And with myself, that makes 10 members and a quorum. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Gruhl, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Padilla, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Reyes moves, Mr. Smith seconds. If there's no objection, unanimous vote, and those minutes are approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, Mr. Cardenas moves and Mr. Labange seconds. If there's no objections, those two are approved unanimously.
Mr. President, now would be time for comments from the public on items not on council's agenda.
Okay. If we're set up in Van Nuys, we do have a speaker out in Van Nuys that we will start with. First, Bruce Darien, welcome. You have 2 minutes to address the council on items not appearing on the agenda, but that are under our jurisdiction. Welcome, and I know we don't have a timer out there, so I'll let you know when your 2 minutes is up.
Thank you, Council Member. Good morning, Council Members. My name is Bruce Darien, as you said. I'm going to be repeating what I spoke on March 3rd in its entirety, being that I was completely edited from the council meeting when I recorded it on March 4th. I'm here to discuss matters involving the Malibu Pier. As the council may be aware, the pier was closed 11 years ago, and Alice's Restaurant was closed 9 years ago. The world-famous landmark Malibu Pier has now taken 7.5 years of construction and $8.5 million of the state taxpayers' money to renovate, and it is nowhere near completion. The project should have taken less than a year and $2 million, and because of fraudulent, corrupt, and questionable contract dealings with the contractors on the project, this project sits far from complete. I would like the council to take a look at investigating the corrupt dealings revolving around this project in that it is connected with past city officials, namely ex-mayor Reardon, and what his involvement is with the Malibu Pier project. I think that it is a disgrace to the city of Los Angeles that the taxpayers have funded this project that has clearly violated both state and federal law, and that myself, as a whistleblower in the United States federal court, I can tell you with certainty that the claims that are being made on the public coffers to pay for all this are not only questionable but illegal. And I think that if we have a comprehensive investigation into the illegal public contracting, that the public will be far better off in future contracting projects that are both in the city of Los Angeles and the surrounding area where people here in Los Angeles are footing the bill. As the council may remember, I spoke here last week, which was as of March 3rd, regarding the relationship of Richard Reardon and the Malibu Pier, and I think that under your whistleblower disclosure hotline, this certainly falls within your whistleblower program, that high-ranking officials are involved in public contracting and questionable deals and warrants your attention to this matter, and I would like to see that it put on the agenda for the following council meeting, so this can be more closely examined by the council members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Darien, and you're just under the wire there with 2 seconds left. We appreciate your testimony. We appreciate you using the Van Nuys facility as well. Here in City Hall, our next speaker is Barrera Pedro, or Pedro Barrera.
Good morning. My name is Pedro Barrera, and the reason I'm here is because this coming Sunday is going to be the big day for the new gardens sitting on District 15, and it's, the address is 111 in Stanford. So if you guys have any chance by noon, we're waiting for you there. We got to have a family party. So also the reason we work in there is because the leaders from the the 41st and Alameda, they terrorize people and they push out from there. And I'm talking about Rufina and Teso. They talking about they have the 350 families there when it's not the truth. The truth is they have all the new gardens starting from 1 month, 1 week, and they walk on the streets to bring people to cover the people in the floods. So our garden is the real people love the land. The real people love the plants. The real people eating the real vegetables. So we inviting all you and enjoy with us. And you see the old people about Rufina's talking, she helping, is not the truth. The truth, the old people, they push out. They are sitting in 111 in Stanford. If you want to see the real farmers, it's there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barrera. Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you very much for the invite. Ms. Perry, in public comment, we were just invited to a community garden. I just would like to clarify, Council President, is this one of the alternative gardens that was worked on by your office and community members?
Yeah, this is this was a garden that was up and running already, and through the assistance of the Garden Council and Al Renner, they had space there, and I believe that garden has already absorbed 50 to 60 families. I also have 2 gardens at 46 in Vermont on either side of the street where some of the gardeners have gone there, and in addition, we had 7 acres of DWP right-of-way in the unincorporated area of Los Angeles County that has been offered to the gardeners at 41st and Alameda, and the Garden Council has been willing to work with anybody who wants to relocate to the unincorporated space as well. But this garden in Janice Hahn's area had some space, and it was it was a going concern, so it was just really an opportunity for those folks who wanted to deal with the uncertainty at 41st and Alameda to go to 111th and Avalon and Stanford. So, and Mr. Barrera is one of them.
Thank you. Gracias, Señor Barrera.
Yes, I want to mention something on this LA Weekly, and they talking about all the history. They show the land to Teso, and he don't take the land. Reason why? Because they love the money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Felicia Ford, and then Patricia Slater.
Good morning, City Council.
Good morning.
My name is Patricia Slater. I am Vice President of the Woodland Memorial Foundation. I come to you today, I was here about a month ago, and I come to you today to please give consideration in giving Woodland Cemetery back to the families of Woodland Cemetery. I have been there several times, and there has been a promise to clean up the cemetery, because it is disgraceful. I took my mother a month ago, and she does not want to go back. I have 2 family members, I have 6 family members that are buried there, that their gravestones have been moved. And I just come to you to ask to please give it back to the families so we can beautify the cemetery the way I'm sure all of your family members, wherever they may be, they have a beautiful place to go and visit. And that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Mr. Labange?
Mr. President, where is this cemetery located?
I don't know, sir.
Hi, the cemetery is located in Compton, but I want to say...
Compton. All right,
Hold on 1 second before you speak, Ms. Ford. Yes, Mr.
With the
Labange.
city attorney, if someone would want to address a matter in another city, would you suggest they go to their city council or the board of supervisors?
Public comment is appropriate for items that are within the jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction of the city council here, and I don't believe the Compton Cemetery is within the jurisdiction of the city council here. So it would be probably more appropriate, Mr. Labange, if you went to the Compton City Council.
Is it my turn to speak?
Yeah, but I
Not
just
quite
wanted
yet.
to get note to
Not
the
yet.
other speaker that you could go to the city council of Compton if you'd like to speak directly on that issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we do have to just be carefully prescribed by California law to all folks who speak before us to make sure that they are on items within our own jurisdiction. I know this is a wonderful public forum for general issues, but they do have to have a link directly to items that we can affect the city of Los Angeles. Ms. Ford. Go ahead, Ms. Ford.
The clock is ticking down, and I hadn't started speaking.
We'll add it.
You know,
Go
I want to
ahead.
say this to all of the city council here. You're all of Los Angeles City Council. We are addressing a wide range of desecration to our loved ones throughout the city of Los Angeles. The cemetery may be in Compton, but the other cemeteries are not in Compton. It is the appropriate forum to address it here. When all of you were elected, you elected to serve all of the people, not selective individuals in your own cities. I've been here a few times, and it is the appropriate forum, as I indicated to you, to address it here. Woodlawn Cemetery, there are serious problems. Monday makes the 6th year that the cemetery was torn up with destruction. We have come to you, most of our taxes are paid here through the city of Los Angeles, and you spend our money at your choice. and to tell us that the cemetery, because it's one of them is in Compton, the other one's in Santa Fe Springs, the other one is in Los Angeles, and the cemetery owners are in Los Angeles here under your jurisdiction, to push us away, I don't think that that is appropriate. I may not have my words gathered here today, and I will be returning back on Friday, but I want to say this. To the fallen soldiers of this country, they have desecrated a wide range of these soldiers that rest in these cemeteries. I have taken pictures where their headstones are just thrown in a storage bin and in the trash can. This has been going on for 6 years, and I want someone to address the tension. Now, I know I'm supposed to be over at the city the county of supervisor, and I'm trying not to go over to the county of supervisors because my words are not going to be so kind over there. I understand that the blame does lie specifically over at that office, but I'm trying real hard to see if all of you here can help us here. Mr. Garcetti, your father was the district attorney at the time that this destruction took place. Respectfully so, he...
Thank you. If I can, and I'm sorry, I added about 10 seconds. If I can ask you to wrap up, please.
Yes, I will wrap up. Respectfully so, your father returned my phone call. I have the utmost respect for him and others that participated in trying to look into the massive destruction of our loved ones' resting place. We are
Thank you,
not
Ms.
going
Ford.
anywhere. And I'm sorry, I rushed in very quickly.
That's okay.
And
Thank you, Ms. Ford. We appreciate it. And that was not directed specifically at you. It was a general thing that our city attorney prescribes for all speakers, and I made it a general comment. So we appreciate your testimony, as always, here today. Our next speaker is Michael, excuse me if I misread this, Guerrero? Guerrero, excuse me. Welcome,
Morning,
sir.
my name is Michael Carrion.
Carry on.
I have a few questions. A couple of weeks ago, somebody came in here and spoke, and Mr. President, you told him you couldn't answer because it was a state law. Yet a few minutes after that, he made a few comments that you didn't like, and you answered to him. Either there is a state law or there isn't a state law. Either you do answer or you don't answer.
We'll
Let
hold
me
your
finish,
time.
please.
We'll hold your time. The city attorney can clarify exactly. I was repeating. Go ahead, Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Can you hold my time? It keeps going.
It's being held. The Brown Act, which is the state law that governs public meetings, allows a brief response to items that were brought up for the first time in public comment. And it's limited to a brief response because if it's a lengthy response, a lengthy discussion, then it should have been agendized so that people could come in, read the agenda, and know that this will be discussed. So they're only limited to a brief response, and we're trying to limit that to approximately 20, 30 words as the brief response. So that's what Mr. Garcetti, President Garcetti, was referring to the other day.
Okay, what are the consequences? How do I get a copy of the Brown Act? I called City Hall and nobody knows where to get it from.
We'll make sure to get you a copy of that. We can get that. If you wait here, we make sure we can get that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, Mr. Weezer is not here, but in his district, we've been fighting and arguing for weeks over some illegal building. It's come to my attention that in the city of Los Angeles, you have taken the honor of having bestowed upon you, which was reserved for DMV, the rudest city entity in the state. Used to be DMV. Now it's the city of Los Angeles. Every time we call and ask for a call back or something, they don't bother to call us back. We, the public, have to initiate everything. And it's getting boring and tiring and exhausting. What else I have? Mr. City Attorney, it's my understanding that we have millions of dollars that's owed to us by parking lots that never paid. Why is it they're dragging your feet and not suing them? A tree falls down on a car, you guys don't pay it, you neglect your responsibility. I get attacked when I come here, and you guys say sue us. It's real quick to tell somebody to sue you, but you drag your feet when you're owed millions of dollars. That's our money. That money's owed to us. Why is something not being done about it? Why aren't these parking lots taken? Why aren't these parking lot attendants sued? Why isn't the property taken by eminent domain or by unpaid bills? I don't know. Maybe you guys are buddy-buddy with them. I got one more thing in closing. Is that my time, or did you keep it running?
We stopped it before, so that is your time, unfortunately.
I got one more comment.
If I can ask you to conclude the next 5 seconds, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Villaraigosa, we got enough problems here in the city of Los Angeles that you have not addressed. Leave the Board of Education alone. We cannot afford to put that on our budget or on our plate when you haven't even addressed the police scandals, the corruption in your own office.
Thank you very much, sir.
Please address that. Clean up your own house
Okay.
before you try to do somebody else.
Thank you for your public comment very much. That closes our public comment for today. First order of business.
On the regular agenda, item 1 is an item notice for public hearing. This is the 2006 annual weed and brush abatement program.
Let's hold that on the table since that's a 12-vote item, and same with 2 to 7 right now. If we can go to the next batch.
So you wish to hold 2 through 7 as well?
Yes, let's hold those.
Items 8 through 12 are street lighting district items. Council should continue the hearings and ordinances to April 12th.
Okay, we'll continue the hearings and the ordinance to April 12th. If there's no objection on items 8 and 12, please open the roll on that. Oh, we don't need to open the roll. We'll just continue that. Excuse me. Next batch.
Items 13 and 14 are street vacation items notice for public hearing. Council should close the hearings and instruct the city engineer to proceed.
Okay, we will open and close those hearings. There's nobody wishing to be heard on 13 or 14. I'm sorry, we do have one on 13? Okay, we'll call 13 special. And on item 14 then, if there's nobody, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
We'll be coming back to item 13, sir, don't we? Next items. Should we do 15 as well on that? If not, I think we have 15 before us.
Mr. President, item 15, the applicant consents to a continuance to April 4th.
Okay, if there's no objection, colleagues, we will continue item 15 until April 4th. Okay?
Items 16 through 36 are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 16 and 17 are commission appointments. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, let's hold 16 and 17 on the desk, please.
That would leave council items 18 through 36. And on items 32 through 34, the Trade and Commerce Committee just met this morning, and the reports have not been circulated as of yet.
Okay. So let's hold 32 to 34, pending those reports. Any other specials, colleagues, from 18 to 36?
Mr. Garcetti?
Yes, Ms. Gruhl?
Items 19 and 20, and item number 36 as well for Ms. Han.
36 for Ms. Hahn. All those are for Ms. Hahn, or the first two are
No,
yours?
First two are mine.
Okay, got it.
And 36 for Ms. Han.
And any other specials, colleagues, from this batch? If not, please prepare the roll on the balance and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 1 no.
Okay. Mr. Smith, you didn't intend to vote no on that batch of items, did you? Okay. We're holding 32, 33, and 34 on the desk pending the reports. Okay, let's revote. I think that was a mistake in the voting apparatus. If we can please open the roll again, close the roll, and tabulate the vote. Okay.
11 ayes.
Welcome back aboard, Mr. Smith, on that. Next items, please.
Items 37 through 55 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Let's hold 37 through 44. Oh, we now have 12 members, so we are okay. Any specials, colleagues, on items 37 through 55? Any specials? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are approved. If we can go back to
Mr. President, there are actually 2 more items on the agenda.
Okay.
Items 56 and 57 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay. 56 or 57, colleagues? Anybody wishing to call special? Mr. Parks?
6 and 57, and we get forthwith on 35.
Okay. 35 will go forthwith, and 56 and 57 we'll call special. If we can return to the ordinances, Mr. Clerk, from the beginning, now that we have 12 members?
Yes, Mr. President. Those were items 1 through 7 and 37 through 44.
Okay. Anybody wishing to call any of those special? If not, let's prepare the roll on the balance and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, those are approved. All right. So let's return to the first items. Well, let's take the commissioners up,
Yes,
actually.
the first commissioner, item 16, is Ms. Martha Swiller to the Commission for Children, Youth, and Their Families.
I see her hands are very full, but Ms. Swiller, if we can get some assistance from your able husband to make sure the kids are looked after, and why don't you come forward to the table, or bring the whole family, what the heck.
You want to go first?
Just to remind the council members, we're only voting on the grown adult here, not the two children before us. And with that, I'd like to start with the chair of our Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee, Mr. Tom LaBonge.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Martha Swiller and her beautiful children with us right now, but today in the morning, she was with us in the, she may slip off that one little chair if you push it up there a little. Good job. Okay. Came before committee and spoke passionately about her history, about her commitment, about her children, and I think she's an excellent choice by Mayor Villaraigosa, and she's going to contribute greatly to children, youth, and their families, and this is what it's all about right here. So Martha, I'm going to ask you just to say a few brief words, if you would, and thank God for juju beads.
Yeah. Well, you asked me this morning what my favorite vegetable was, and it really is broccoli, but right now they are eating fruit chews, which are very bad for their teeth. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today and to serve on the Children, Youth, and Families Commission. I'm looking forward to working with the Mayor's Office and the City Council to improve the lives of children, youth, and families in the City of Los Angeles. I currently am the Executive Vice President of Planned Parenthood Los Angeles, and believe that our work to make sure that people can finish their education, have the information they need to raise healthy and planned families is important. I look forward to bringing that expertise to my work on the commission, but I'm also very interested in issues of childcare, education, and children's health. Both of my daughters have asthma, and I think it's important that we look at the environmental health issues here in our city as that epidemic increases. So again, I'm pleased to be here, and as their patience wears out, I'll answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you very much. We have a
Thank you.
sorry, Mr.
Strong
LaBonge.
recommendation of approval. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Just as if we can suspend this item for a moment, just stay where you are. Item 51 did have a speaker card, so we will call that special as well. Our next speaker is Mr. Wesson, to be followed by Ms. Gruhl. Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief. I just want to say it's good to see you and the two beautiful children that you have. I had the pleasure to work with this young lady for over 7 years, and she's a can-do type of an individual. I don't know how you're going to find the time with those two little ones and your other passions, but I think the city is fortunate to have someone of your caliber that has decided to serve, and we're, proud to have you aboard. And with that said, you just keep your husband Ari in line and everything will be okay.
That's what takes the most time.
I believe that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl, and then Mr. Weezer.
Thank you, Mr. President, and just want to stand up and also give my great support for Martha Swiller, because she has, not only in the last 7 years in Planned Parenthood, but for her entire career, been very concerned and interested in in children's issues, and I was pleased to hear her talk about child care. We have a child care policy in the City of Los Angeles, one in which we want to look at implementing at a greater level, and so your expertise will be great. I've had the chance of being a good friend of Martha's and spending time with her children, and I don't think Annie ever sits still, so she is an active child, so just pleased that, Martha, you're willing to do this with all the things that you do, and it's a great commission, and we always want you to come back and tell us on different things that we could do differently. So I look forward to you working there and being a part of the city family and as a commissioner in Los Angeles. So congratulations.
Thank you.
This is actually a test for all commissioners. We give 2 random children to them to see if they can be for our children, youth, and families. Mr. Weezer is our next speaker.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your willingness to serve. And I know what you're going through. I have a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old myself, and so I know what you're going through right now. But thank you so much for your willingness to serve, and thank you for the work you do in Planned Parenthood. I know we work together on the school district and making sure that we made more connections with our schools, and it wasn't always an easy job in doing that, but I know you're a fighter and you're willing to do that here as well. And I'd just like to compliment the mayor and his selections for this commission. We're getting a well-rounded individuals on this commission that I think are really going to add some more creativity to this commission to go forward. And with your background and the things you've been doing, I think it's going to be a whole lot better. So thank you so much for your willingness to serve, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. We just had voted for you in committee this morning, and it was wonderful to see you again. We hadn't seen each other in a while since I was in the legislature. We hadn't talked. We'd seen each other around. But I just wanted to let the people of Los Angeles know how fortunate we are that someone as busy as you are and someone as dynamic as you is going to be giving up, I don't know how you find free time, but giving up your free time to the city of Los Angeles to help us on such an important issue of families and children. And not only are you intelligent and talented, but you're a great demonstration of a family. But I just wanted to share with people how important it is for people to understand how well-rounded you are and how you understand communities. There's a program called Las Promotoras that is really concentrated in the mostly Hispanic community, not exclusively, but mostly the Hispanic community, highly Catholic, high Christian community, yet they're talking about Planned Parenthood. And just the fact that it is so successful proves that you think outside the box and you realize that we should not label each other and we should not think of each other as this or that, but should we think of each other as how can we help each other and work together. And that's what you're doing, and that's why I know you so well from years in the legislature. And I just wanted to thank you because sometimes being a Latino Christian male, elected official in the legislature, some organizations wouldn't come and talk to me, but you did, and we did some wonderful, wonderful work together for families throughout the state of California, and I just wanted to thank you for your openness, and that's just who you are. That's just who you are, and I just wanted to tell the people of Los Angeles how fortunate we are to have you with us and for you to give up your time and be on this commission. So congratulations, and thank you once again.
Thank you, and thank you for your commitment. I look forward to continuing to work with you.
In the interest of time, I will cut my speech very short, too, just to thank you, Martha, for being an incredible presence in the city and offering yourself forward for service. I think your work here during this confirmation hearing speaks for itself. So with that, I'll recommend an aye vote, and if we can please open the roll on the nomination, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Welcome aboard, Commissioner. Congratulations, Martha.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Next commission nomination, please.
Item 17 is the appointment of Ms. Andrea Alarcon to the Board of Transportation Commissioners.
Ms. Alarcon, come on up. And our chair of the Transportation Committee, I know, is making her way around, so I'll recognize Ms. Gruhl to be followed by Mr. Zine. Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have a familiar face here today, Andrea Alarcon, who is being appointed to the Board of Transportation Commissioners, which, as we were talking actually yesterday in our kind of pre-meeting for transportation today, with the fund that we have, the parking fund, so many issues that are going to be coming before your commission that are important. Just so pleased that your willingness to serve. You know a lot about the city, and someone that I think is going to be a great addition. So I appreciate that you're here today. I don't know if you want to say just a few things before. I'm sure there are other colleagues that want to say, if they may or may not, ask a few questions, but anything you'd like to just say about being on the commission?
Sure. Very briefly, it's a pleasure to be back in these council chambers, Mr. President and council members. This brings back fond memories of being a kid. I remember I used to sit back in those press boxes and watch and listen and take notes. So it's great to be back. I've had the pleasure of working at the federal level at US DOJ, working at the state level with the Attorney General's office, and it's great to be back home and to offer my service to the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, I'd ask that we have I vote on Ms. Alarcon.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. Mr. Zine is our next speaker, to be followed by Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Morning.
You have a lot of experience in politics, and you have a lot of experience in transportation. especially when the car breaks down.
Yes, forgive me, for those of you who don't know, on my way here, my car broke down, so I'm a little flustered right now.
Just relax, relax. It happens to all of us. The transportation issues in Los Angeles are phenomenal. Most people have to leave hours ahead of time if they want to travel to the airport or travel to the other part of town. Just keep in mind that everyone has to fight that same gridlock, and whatever the commission can do to help relieve that for all the good people of the city of Los Angeles, the San Fernando Valley, the West, the South. Remember, we're all stuck in it all the time, and it hurts every single one of us. And then when our car breaks down and we have to be at a meeting at City Council, it makes it that much worse.
Absolutely. I understand. As a resident of the San Fernando Valley, I have to commute every day to and from, and I've got a 4-year-old baby, so the commute is horrible, and I look forward to reducing that time.
So we're looking at you to champion that cause. Councilmember Wendy Gruhl, the chair of our transportation, trying to make this happen for the benefit of all of us. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith is next, to be followed by Mr. Labange and Mr. Padilla.
Well, I'm glad to have you here today. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that, a young high school girl came into our Mr. Burnson's field office and said she had some time to donate. And it turned out that Andrea came in our office and put together a community service guide, some 50 pages long. It's the first time we'd ever done it.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still use that book you put out. We've changed the dates and we changed the information, but
Great.
it was something you started and we still use today in our office. I want to thank you for that. She was a charming young lady in our office. Everybody really enjoyed having her there. Now you're taking on a big role, though. In the Department of Transportation, we have a new general manager, and I think most of us around this horseshoe in dealing with DOT are going to tell you it's a very bureaucratic department, and we need some people in there with the commission working with our chairman of the transportation that's going to really kick the department in the rear and get LA moving, and that's going to come from your leadership. And I know you're going to do a great job because you come from a family that understands all these issues very well. You're very capable, and you're going to be a charming lady to have on that department working hard for the people of the Valley and the whole city of LA. So I'm really happy to see you here again. It's good to have a reacquaintance with you, and I know you're going to do a great job. I'm fully supportive, and it's great to have you back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange, Mr. Padilla, and Mr. Reyes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alarcon. Welcome, and good to see you. One little task that I'd like you to look at as a representative of the San Fernando Valley, if you could focus on the cross streets across the valley and seeing how we could improve that traffic flow to relieve the congestion that is constant on the Highway 101 or Highway 118. But Roscoe, Sherman Way, and Victory, all are great east-west streets, and maximum focus by the department on signalization so that people go the right speeds, not fast, but also are able to flow. I made a comment the other day about synchronized signals, but also synchronized drivers. If you're going 35 miles an hour on Sherman Way, you could come out of a side street and merge into that traffic with ease. But if you're going 50 down Sherman Way, you're going to run up somebody's back and cause a problem. And it's important to go the speed limit. I also ask that you contact another fellow Valley Commissioner, Alan Scobin, who's on the Police Commission, because there was discussion that Mr. Scobin had at the very same table of having a joint meeting between the Transportation Commission and the Police Commission to focus on traffic issues. So those are two little assignments. Take care, and thank you for your service. And do you have anything you want to say, what your passion about traffic is?
I want to increase our profitability. I know that the SPRF fund is the 5th largest revenue source for the general fund. I want to grow that a little bit more. I want to use those funds to make profitable investments for the city so that we can provide services all around.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Mr. Padilla, to be followed by Mr. Reyes and Mr. Rosendahl.
Well, I guess since Andrea is my constituent, stand up and offer my blessing. No, colleagues, obviously we're very proud of her in the Northeast Valley. Her leadership is genetic, and the city of Los Angeles is a lot better today because we have a new commissioner who's going to bring leadership skills in the transportation arena from personal experience, but well beyond, looking at quality of life issues comprehensively throughout the valley and throughout the city. So congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Reyes, to be followed by Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you, Council President. I want to thank you for stepping up. Coming from a family of long line public service, you are very brave. But I also want to ask you, in terms of dash systems
Yes.
and local circulators, we know our local communities don't have accessibility where it's convenient to use the bus lines. You have to walk many blocks.
Right.
In many areas that are manufacturing industrial zones are becoming residential because of our adaptive reuse. We have our rail stations that are evolving around industrial areas where you don't have access to public transportation. I just want to get your impression on using the dash systems, enhancing them, making more of them, to make it convenient and really provide a person that second thought and say, maybe I don't need my car. Maybe I could take the dash to the major rail line or bus line to get to my job. I just want to get your impression on that.
Yeah,
Please hold
actually,
my time.
a little known fact, I used to take the bus to and from school, and I used to walk several miles to actually get to the bus stop. So I understand those needs, and I understand as a single mom what it means to get to work. You've got to, it's a necessity. So for those people who have to walk miles to get to a bus stop, wait in cold weather, in the rain, I know what that struggle is like, so I'm very sympathetic to that. So if there's anything that I can do to improve the dash services and improve the busing throughout the city, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Well, I would hope that, should we have the opportunity to discuss this issue again, that we could start mapping out and understand where our rail stations are evolving, where our major intersections, where bus lines are intersecting, and talk about those loops that captures potential ridership for our rail stations by providing a convenient dash near their homes.
Right.
It's a whole other system, a whole other layer of transportation opportunity, but I believe we can feed into it because I really look at the cost of gas, and you look at how much time people are spending on the freeways. I think we're ready for some options, and I think dash systems, neighborhood circulators is a potential strategy that can give us many returns. So I hope we look at that in a very serious way.
Absolutely, and I look forward to working with your office.
Thank you very much.
Doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Our next speaker is Mr. Rosendahl, to be followed by Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Rosendahl.
Well, first, good morning, Champ.
Thank you.
And I call you Champ because you're tackling the problems that are the most significant overall for the city of Los Angeles, which is the gridlock. Obviously, homelessness, housing, jobs, criminal justice, and a lot of other issues. But transportation's big. Give me a little bit about your background and why you think this makes sense for you.
My background actually, from a public policy perspective, I don't have much background in transportation. Let me give you a little history about me. I product of public schools, went to DC, got undergraduate and graduate education at Georgetown University, had the opportunity to work for US DOJ under Rose Ochi, whom I'm sure several of you are familiar with, working on race relations and hate crimes. Moved back to LA, served as the executive director of WAVE Harbor Community. It's the largest transitional housing facility for victims of domestic violence in the country. Did that for several years. Was appointed by Governor Davis, worked under Secretary of Labor Steve Smith, spent a little time on the anti-recall campaign, and now work as a special assistant to Attorney General Bill Lockyer. So my background and my expertise is really public safety. So if I can bring that to the commission, because obviously public safety is integral to transportation. But from a practical perspective, you know, I commute every day too, so I bring that as well.
I think you bring a third thing, and that's why I really said good morning, Champ, is your appreciation of Sacramento, and at this particular moment, the bonding future, since it did not get together for the June ballot. Hopefully it will be for the November ballot. And we're counting on you to take a good look at the bonding process and where are the dollars for transportation infrastructure for the megalopolis of the planet, okay? Los Angeles City, Los Angeles County, and all of Southern California. Our governor has to realize that the meat and potatoes of our great, robust economy comes from Southern California, and right now we're hurting with gridlock. And that bonding mechanism has to have a substantial amount of money for the Red Line, for the Expo Line, and I dare say the Green Line, which needs to go into LAX and needs to go up Lincoln Boulevard and go down into the South Bay, for more buses, for bus-only lanes. Anything we can do to relieve the congestion is critical. It should be in the bonding mechanism. So I look forward to the Commission dealing with that.
I agree.
Are there any particular mass transit projects that you want to shepherd and champion?
At this point, no. I had the opportunity to meet with the Mayor's office and Department of Transportation and several council offices. So I'm just getting a general sense of what's going on in the city. So I don't have any specific projects at this point, but I'm sure one will emerge.
And I know that family is important to all of us, and with your father being a significant leader in Sacramento, I know that tie-in will also affect us in a very positive way. So congratulations.
He's always very
Thanks for stepping
supportive.
forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cardenas is our next speaker, to be followed by Mr. Huizar.
Thank you very much. I remember when I met you, you were in high school over at Monroe, and you've come a long way. Can you please share with the people of Los Angeles where you went to college and how long you've been back and what you're doing, what's your day job? Because this is a voluntary job that you're applying for that I support you 110%, but please share with the people of Los Angeles where you went after Monroe and then also when you got back and what you're doing on your day job, please.
Sure.
My time, please.
Sure. I went to high school where you met me at Monroe High School in North Hills. Received my undergraduate degree in government English and theology, and a graduate degree in business administration from Georgetown University in DC. Again, I spent some time at USDOJ there. Came back, what year was that? Probably about 2001. I'm sorry.
Time ago.
Seems like forever. That was when I actually had my daughter. I have a 4-year-old girl. Came back home because I needed family support. That's where I served as the executive director of WAVE, the domestic violence shelter in the Valley. Transitioned to Sacramento for a short period of time, working with the governor, and then moved back down to Los Angeles after that recall election was over, and have been here ever since. My primary policy issues for the Attorney General as his special assistant are to I actually write legislation, I track legislation, manage priority projects for him specific to gangs, women's issues, and so on. So I handle a variety of things, as you know, in executive office. Whatever he wants me to do that day is what I take care of. So.
Good. I mean, I met you through your mother and father, and both of them have done wonderful, wonderful work, not only for the San Fernando Valley, but for all of Los Angeles. I remember working with your mother on trying to get WAVE off the ground before in politics, when I was a realtor out in the San Fernando Valley, and we were able to get Freddie Mac to be able to sell them the building after it was earthquake damage, and they were just going to make it into another apartment complex. But I just wanted to point it out, your mother and now you are involved with the largest shelter west of the Mississippi?
It's the largest transitional housing facility in the country.
In the country now?
It houses 177 women and their children, 36 families. It's huge, and they all get their individual units. It's amazing.
Wonderful. I just wanted to point out to the people of Los Angeles, not only do you have responsibilities in your own right, I'm sure you're very proud of the fact that you're carrying on a lot of responsibilities that have been put on you, and you're doing a wonderful job at that. Speaking of responsibilities that are falling on your shoulders, I'd like to remind you to please help us, the San Fernando Valley, get back on track with the north-south corridor. We have the east-west corridor, which is the Orange Line, which is very well celebrated and well used. When Speaker Bob Hertzberg was the speaker at the time and I was the budget chairman, we put forth $330 million for the San Fernando Valley, $220 million for the what is now the Orange Line, the east-west, and $110 million for the north-south. If you could please find out what MTA is doing with that $110 million, because we did earmark it for the north-south, and now the mayor is talking about moving forward with that into the near future. So hopefully with your commission and your efforts, we can bring it back on track. I'm sure it needs more money now, as the Orange Line has peaked beyond the $300 million mark. But back then, they told us they needed $220 million, and we gave it to them. But as usual, it went over budget. But what I wanted to remind you of now that you're going on the Transportation Commission, if you could follow through with that, please, for the people of the San Fernando Valley. And I'm sure you're going to do a lot of other work for the entire city of Los Angeles. So Andrea, it's wonderful to see you again. Thank you for your volunteering your time. You have a young daughter. You have volunteer work you already do. You have your day job. And thank you so much for giving up. I don't know how you find your free time, but thank you for giving up your free time to the people of Los Angeles.
This is my free time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker is Mr. Huizar.
Thank you. Great to see you, Andrea. And one thing I just quickly wanted to mention is, I know a lot of the discussion in transportation issues around the city today is how do we solve our transportation problem by getting cars and trucks through our city quicker and faster. But sometimes lost in that conversation is pedestrian safety. For example, in Boyle Heights, an area that I represent and I grew up, we had an unfortunate incident a few weeks ago where a baby was killed by an 18-wheeler. And if you look at Boyle Heights, you have industrial areas surrounding the neighborhood. You have every major highway that crisscrosses Boyle Heights. And you also, it's a major thoroughfare as the San Gabriel Valley traffic comes to downtown. And I just want to impress upon you, the other commissioners in our Department of Transportation, that we keep in mind the pedestrian traffic and all the moms and pops who are taking their kids in strollers around our streets. That has to be in the equation as we talk about how do we better and improve our traffic system here in the city of Los Angeles. So thank you for serving on the commission, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. If nobody else wishes to be heard, let's prepare the roll on the nomination and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Congratulations, Commissioner. Next order of business, please.
Item 13 was called special for a card from the public.
Okay, also before we do that, let's formally reconsider 51 for the cards. If we can open the roll and close the roll and tabulate the vote on 51.
14 ayes.
Okay, we'll call that special as well for cards from the public. And item number 13, I'd like to invite forward at this time Armando Rodriguez to give testimony on 13. Welcome, sir.
Yes, good morning. My name is Armando Rodriguez, and I'm just here to ask a question. I do have a location right on the corner of F Street and Broad, and I did pick up a notice of vacation, and I wanted to know how is that going to affect my business there. And I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about my employees. I'm concerned about am I going to have access to my office? So I need some answers on that.
Okay, we'll get somebody to talk to you about that
Thank you.
right away. Thank you. Anybody wishing to be heard on this item? Okay. Okay, we have somebody to speak with you. Let's open the roll on the item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, that is approved. Next item, please.
Item 19 was called special by Councilmember Grewal.
Okay, Ms. Grewal, we have item number 19 before us. Let's recognize Ms. Grewal.
Thank you. Actually, just 19, if we could call 19 and 20 together.
Sure,
They're
let's take up
both,
19 and 20
on
together.
MICLA. And do we have anyone from, either from, yes? CAO or Control, or City Attorney? Oh, they're all sitting there, okay. Colleagues, we have before us, Colin will welcome you at the table too, before us two items relative to MICLA. And, you know, it's one of those items, as I've talked about in council, that gets put in and projects get on, and I've always kind of questioned how that happens. And when we had this audit, there was also a description of the MICLA Advisory Board. And as I said in committee, the MICLA Advisory Board, all these people, I know them, they're great, that's not the issue. The issue is about the ability of how those terms are extended, that they appoint one another. So my two questions I wanted to ask today, and then I'll ask to hold my time, is one, to talk about the appointing authority and what their responsibilities are, and if we have clarified whether or not there's any term and how that works out in their terms extended. And two, and this is maybe from the CAO's perspective, as to how we prioritize our MICLA and available uses for that. And please hold my time. So I'm not sure who wants to respond to the...
We'll have Colin, City Attorney, speak to the term and I think not the selection process, but just the term.
Just the term. Colin Chu from the City Attorney's Office.
The MICLA bylaws prescribe a 4-year term for members of the board of directors. There are no limits as to the number of 4-year terms that they may serve. And it also provides that the directors are subject to disapproval by the city council within 45 days of receipt by the city clerk of the name of the director.
Okay, so I guess the question, we asked this in committee, is one, so you appoint someone, which I think some of these members have been there for probably 10, 15 years.
Since the beginning in '84.
Since the beginning in '84, okay, so 20 some odd years. Their names are submitted to the council from the mayor? No.
No, the initial appointment was made by...
Hold my time.
Was made by Mayor Bradley. And then after that, as members dropped off or had other obligations, they would submit names to the council to be confirmed. But they themselves submit the names. During the Reardon administration, I believe that they had asked the mayor for names, and they worked concurrently. But the bylaws state that they appoint and is concurred by the city council.
Okay, and so when their 4-year term is up, how does that work?
They just reappoint themselves. I'm not sure that this is a question for the city attorney, if they necessarily have to come back here for confirmation. I think it's a...
Mario Vasquez with the City Administrative Officer. The city attorney can speak on the item Ms. Brill suggested, but in practice, new appointments to the MICLA board are transmitted to the city clerk for the council's review, but reoccurring appointments or reappointments have not been transmitted to the council for their review.
Okay.
And that's in practice, but if the city attorney may wish to comment.
The governing provision is in the MICLA bylaws, and we can approach the board about clarifying that. It's a little unclear what exactly happens.
Okay, so I think that would be helpful, and one of the reasons I wanted to call this special is that I thought we had said in audits and government efficiency that we wanted to get that report back. It did not include that in this document for a report back and clarification. Again, I have no problem with the current board. But I think as in the era of transparency that we're trying to have, and as far as oversight and policy, I think the council would like to know, because many of us asked who are the board members,
Right.
and the appointments. And so I think
Since
if we could-
'84, a lot has changed. We now post their agendas. We, when we're meeting, we do the posting that we need to under the Brown Act. We also publish minutes.
Hold my time, sorry.
The auditors come through and look at our minutes and look at the agendas. So because of the change in law, MICLA has abided by all those rules and does do all the posting.
And how often do they meet?
We meet when there's an item that needs to go before them, basically.
So an ad hoc basis?
It's ad hoc, maybe once or twice a year, depending on the amount of MICLAs that come through. I believe last year we only had one meeting because there was nothing for them to approve.
And their review entails what? Are they looking at the financial aspect of it or the project itself?
They look mainly at the financing. The project itself is pre-approved by the council, that the council has made a decision that they need to buy this building or buy this equipment or build something. And it comes to the CAO, who prepares a resolution for the MICLA board with the assistance of the city attorney. And they approve the resolution as to the financing. Then it comes...
Their focus is on financing, not the capital aspect.
Right.
Okay, and then my last question, and Bill, whether you or your staff to answer that, which is, where are we, and maybe this is also controller, and our MICLA percentage? I think, how much percentage can we have in this indebtedness for the city under MICLA? 6%?
The maximum is 6%, and for 2005-06, it's 4.5. We're at 4.5%, which is a good, gives you a lot of capacity. And that...
That's okay. We do have significant capacity. We know that The police headquarters facility will come on board in a few years, in about 3.5 years. The one thing about the MICLA program and
But
what we're
that's
trying...
included in the, is that included in the 4.5 though? Because
No,
we've
it's
already
not.
obligated.
It won't be reflected until 2010.
Okay.
What's important, though, is that we stay with the policy that MICLA funds are used for projects that provide a citywide benefit. And essentially what happens, this is a proverbial what comes first. And what comes first is identification of the project. And then your council will ask our office in a CLA what possible funding sources could be used to complete that project. And what we try to do, depending on the nature of the project, whether it's something that specific to one district or whether or not it has a citywide benefit, and we look at the various, I'll call them pots of money that are available to fund a project, and we'll come back with a recommendation that at times will include MICLA funding.
And as far as the determining how MICLA projects get funded, priorities, maybe if you could discuss that process. And secondly, as to, you know, when we're deciding, for example, that we're going to fund a project through MICLA, is there consideration given as well to the operating expenses of that facility and the adoption of a MICLA project?
And that's normally in the report, and that's one of our principal concerns, is that when we do build a project, we're very mindful of the fact that it's normally GSD will be required to maintain that facility, and another department, if it's a Rec and Parks facility, or say like at a zoo, will be required to operate the facility. So we do speak to not only the capital cost to construct the building, but also the long-term cost to maintain and operate the facility. That's very, very important, because even with our bond programs, you know, we're building libraries and fire stations and animal services facilities and police stations and so on. And it's the bond will pay for the capital cost, the bricks and mortar, but we need general fund dollars to operate and maintain the buildings. And that's actually has been a significant drain on our general fund. We built new libraries, we're building new fire stations and so on, and that is an issue. Yeah. Even something as simple as water and electricity represents a cost.
And I think that's important as we go forward for MICLA projects, to be able to identify, so we don't commit a lot of dollars to something and then have to use general fund, even though that may be a priority. Is it based on the other things, the priority we want to focus on? And so I just, colleagues, wanted to bring this issue up today, and it will complete my remarks here, that there's a lot of money that we fund through MICLA. There's a lot of projects that we fund. I want to make sure that we are looking at what are our top priorities, that we have full funding for the operation of whatever facility we are selecting, and that there's an understanding that we may reach a cap and no longer be able to use MICLA for a period of time, potentially. And so want to make sure that the projects that need to be at the top of the list. And so I'm continuing to ask those questions as Mr. CAO knows. So.
See, excuse me, if you look at our debt chart, and we'll be happy to distribute an updated copy to the council, the city's been very responsible in the management of its debt and the use of the MICLA dollars, in my opinion.
We have, and so I just am not suggesting that you have not. It's more of sometimes on a public policy issues to the priorities of the projects that we would like to see, and as it goes through the budget process. And so, colleagues, just, Mr. President, just want to amend, I think it would be on item number 20 for a report back on the terms of the appointees and the bylaws, et cetera.
Great.
Thank you very much for your indulgence in asking those questions. Thank you, staff.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gruhl. And we'll be sending folks a acronym list so they can decipher MICLA. And with that, we'll open the roll on the item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. We have a motion to go out of order on items 56 and 57. I think there's been some document that's been distributed, and if nobody wishes to be heard on it, then we can do this by consent. Is that acceptable, Mr. Zine?
Mr. Chair, I discussed this with two of the colleagues that had concerns. They've been addressed with Councilmember Parks and Councilmember Hahn. I think the matters have been addressed and resolved. So if that's the case, which I believe is the case, we could move both those items forward on 56 and 57. Is that okay? To move it forward, that the matters have been resolved. They don't need to talk if we don't need to listen.
Okay, if those issues have been resolved.
I'd like for him to just brief.
All right, well, briefly?
All right.
Okay, thank you. Commander, briefly.
Very briefly. Charlie Beck, Office of Operations. And Councilmember Hahn and I have had a number of conversations on this issue. I've met with her gang steering committee. I've received their support, and I have given my commitment that the installation of the cameras will not occur without the communities, and specifically the Ms. Hahn's gang task force knowledge of where the cameras are and their input as to their locations.
Thank you. Any further questions on or comments, Mr. Zine?
I just want to acknowledge the contribution from Motorola and also from the Department of Justice, working in cooperation with the City of Los Angeles for the district to have a safer community. So I just want to, I think they may be in the audience, but to acknowledge both Motorola and Department of Justice. And also you, because I know you did a great job with MacArthur Park, and now you're blossoming out to other areas of the city.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, we are all very grateful for Motorola's partnership on this. Ms. Hahn?
Thank you, and I certainly didn't want to act like I was ungrateful for this $1.2 million contribution from Motorola, but this community likes things done a certain way, and sometimes feels like decisions are made and announcements are made without them having the ability to weigh in on it. So I really appreciate you coming to my Watts Gang Force Task Meeting Monday. I think at the end of the presentation, the community certainly was in favor of this. Still a little bit concerns about where they were going to be placed, and I know you've made the commitment today to get their input before you place these cameras. Bottom line is we all want the same thing.
Yes, we do.
This is a community that has suffered an enormous amount of violence, particularly gang-related violence, where they live, where they go to school, and in between. And hopefully the addition of these cameras and this technology will really ultimately provide a safer place particularly for our young people, growing up safely, being able to walk to school, and being able to get an education. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for your commitment of your ongoing status update to the community, and it's a go.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. If nobody else wishes to be heard, let's prepare the roll on the item and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Forthwith.
We will send that forthwith. Congratulations, and thank you all very much for your hard work on this. If we can return to the regular order of items.
Mr. President, items 32, 33, and 34 were being held on the desk for committee reports, and those have now been circulated.
Okay. Does anybody wish to call those special? We're holding them on the desk for the committee reports. Yes, Ms. Rosendahl? 33, okay. Are 32 and 34 good as is without anything? If so, let's prepare the roll on 32 and 34 and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
And let's take up item 33. Next, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could we ask our folks to come forward here?
Excuse me 1 sec, Mr. Rosendahl. Ms. Hahn needs to recuse herself, so before we take that up formally, Ms. Hahn, if you want to take this opportunity to recuse yourself on item 33, which is before us. It's, you certainly can stay if you'd like. All right. We will come get you in a moment. All right, Mr. Rosendahl, please proceed.
Yes, colleagues, this was in our committee this morning, but Janice had to recuse herself, and also we were well over 10 o'clock and we wanted to be down here. So I just reported it out of committee to come to the full council, where if there are any cards, Mr. President, to speak on this issue? Okay, so then, the need for a public hearing, we're in the public. Would you tell us what this is all about?
Yes, Council Member. What's your
name?
My name is Dave McKenna. I'm an Assistant City Attorney assigned to the Harbor Division of the City Attorney's Office. Item number 33 requests your approval of an extension of agreement number 2215, as well as the carving out of 2 separate agreements for work in the environmental area at the port. The original agreement was with the firm of Knotts, Gunter, Elliott, and back in 2001, The city attorney went out for proposals. They solicited 47 firms, of which the Nossaman firm was selected. The agreement expired September 30th, and what you have before you today is to extend the agreement 2215 to January 30th, 2006, as well as short extension agreements to handle several matters that are pending before the board right now. Those matters being the Los Angeles Export Terminal litigation, as well as the Baykeeper Boatworks litigation. The total amount that we're requesting in this particular authorization is $2 million. $1.1 million will be authorized for the LAXT litigation, and $531,000 will be authorized for the Baykeeper Boatworks. In addition, with the extension, we're requesting $32,000 for work that was previously performed by the Nossaman firm in the work of the port.
Would you explain in layman's terms what the litigating costs are and what we're actually involved with here?
The litigation involving LAXT is a lawsuit that was brought by a port tenant, essentially alleging that the port had run them out of business. The amount in their complaint is in excess of $600 million. We are hoping that we will find a resolution to this lawsuit, and we are working diligently negotiating with them, but ultimately the exposure could be as much as $600 million. In the Baykeeper Boatworks matters, these are cost recovery matters. These are environmental matters that initially we were sued by the Baykeeper for the cleanup of an area of the port. The port expended close to $20 million in the cleanup, and now we are seeking reimbursement from prior tenants. The boatwork likewise is the same type of litigation. It involves insurance issues as well as environmental contamination issues.
Is there anything we need to know that we don't know that would require us to go into closed session at this point?
Unless there are any questions, Council Member, I don't believe there is anything at this point. If in fact we do resolve the LAXT litigation, it will be sent to the City Council for approval, and you will have a full vetting of that issue in closed session. As for the Baykeeper Boatworks, we are working on negotiating a settlement on those matters, and hopefully that they will be resolved likewise.
Thank you very much. And Mr. President, unless any colleague wants to discuss this issue, I would suggest we move forward with it and approve it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. Seeing nobody else on the speaker queue, let's prepare the roll on the item and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. And let's send that forth. Okay. Next item, please.
Item 36 was called special by Councilmember Gruhl for Ms. Hahn.
Mr. President, will you summons the Sergeant of Arms to get Ms. Hahn?
Yes, we'll get Ms. Hahn back in, and we've had a request to take 51 out of order. If we can do that next, colleagues. Welcome back, Ms. Hahn. And I'd like to open a public hearing with Monica Harmon, to be followed by Sylvia Hawkins on item 51. Ms. Harmon? Is Ms. Harmon here? Going once, going twice. Sylvia Hawkins? Item number 51. My apologies before. You have 2 minutes. Welcome.
No problem. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Sylvia Hawkins, or you can call me President Sylvia Hawkins. On number 51, we must say no. Before any contract money is given to Holyback Police Station project for public people safety zone in any area of California, until the conduct of all official police officer is trained to not mistreat the public people in anger or speech, hollering at the public people without any authority or speech. More training is needed for police officers. We must come to the ending of all things, not because that's their building. We can't no longer have United States of America jail cells a revolving door. If the conduct of a felony person, whether it's in school, business, churches, or houses, has become of view conduct and not as in satisfaction, the answer is not back to rehabilitation programs, juvenile hall, halfway houses, schools, or back in the jail cell. But the answer is death. Therefore, at the age of 30 years, their children will not be able to live with an out-of-order conduct and bad record name in United States of America. I am very concerned about the conduct of police officers, now the public. If the public have to obey the police officer with great conduct, then we deserve the same treatment from officials. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins, for your thoughts on the Hollenbeck Police Station. That closes public comment on this item. If anybody wishing to be heard from the council? If not, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Let's go forthwith on that. And back to the regular order, please.
Item 36 was called special for Councilmember Hahn.
Item 36, Ms. Hahn, is before us.
Thank you. Colleagues, I introduced this because the parking of RV recreational vehicles, particularly in my district, is a huge problem. I consider it a public safety hazard. It could be also described as blight. We have a problem with people who are, not just loading and unloading their RVs for a long weekend or a vacation, but they're literally storing these vehicles on the street. Currently in the city of Los Angeles, of course, we have our usual, you can't leave a vehicle parked for more than 72 hours, but we know that many of these owners are just skirting that. They wait for 72 hours and they move it a block. And then they wait another 72 hours and they move it a block. And they're really sort of laughing in the face of what we have currently in the city of Los Angeles. I find them to be public safety hazards. Many people pulling out of a driveway come to an intersection to make a left or right turn and find that their view is completely blocked because of these oversized vehicles, and it really presents a hazard. So I've proposed that in the city of Los Angeles, we have a ban on parking RVs and oversized vehicles overnight so that we can tackle the problem of people storing their RVs on city streets for several days at a time. People can park during the day, so if they need to unload or load their vehicles for a trip, that will be allowable. But they won't be allowed to park on our streets during the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., which is what the city considers overnight. And we think that that will really help address this problem. I spoke to our new General Manager of Department of Transportation and said, obviously, we're going to need more enforcement on this new ordinance, because that's part of the problem sometimes is our overnight officers who enforce what we have on the books already. But then this will give those officers an ability to know that, if they go out there at 4 in the morning and there's an RV parked on a street that we have designated, they can ticket them. It's clear, it's easy, there's no moving it every hour. Now, there is a problem, I think we're going to hear from someone during public comment, that obviously what needs to still be worked out is those people who need to unload and load. Maybe they come home from a long trip on Sunday night, and maybe the place where they store their vehicle isn't open until Monday. So now we've got a little problem there. So I'm asking Department of Transportation to come back in 30 days with a possible solution, whether it be a temporary permit that people can apply for and get, so that we know that they're legitimately loading and unloading their vehicle and they must park there overnight. But those are things I think we can work out. And colleagues, this ordinance will allow you flexibility in your own council district. If you have places where it's not a problem and you haven't seen it to be a problem, you don't have to designate those streets as off limits to RVs. In my council district, I think I know exactly the streets that are problems. I've heard it in my office. I get complaints all the time, and I will designate certain streets that I want to be off limit to the storage of RVs in the middle of the night. So I think this will give us flexibility, but it also, I think, will address a problem that we all know exists, that people who own RVs should not store them on residential streets. They were never intended for that purpose, and I hope you'll support me in drafting this ordinance.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. There was already a public hearing held, Ms. Hahn. We do have one public speaker card, so it would require a reopening of the public hearing to hear this comment.
Without objection, colleagues, I'd like for those who came down here to be able to speak on this.
Okay, if there's no objection, we just have one public speaker card. Bill Hill, if you'd like to come forward. And we have 2 minutes. Welcome to City Hall.
Good morning, Mr. President and council members. My name is Bill Hill. My wife and I, Sherry, live in Ms. Hahn's district in northwest San Pedro. We are RV owners and have always stored our trailers in storage yards. The proposed, and we are concerned about the proliferation of other RVs in our area, people who are literally storing them on the streets and as well as living in them. However, the proposed ordinance that would ban all parking overnight would severely penalize folks like us who come home late on a Sunday evening, need to unload. If you have ever taken a car trip, when do you load your vehicle? You do it the night before and get ready. By limiting parking between 2 and 6 a.m., you would prohibit us from doing that. So we would encourage you very much to look at an ordinance that would possibly give permits that would allow folks to park temporarily overnight in specific areas so that you don't penalize those of us who are abiding by the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We have 4 more speakers from the City Council here. That closes our public hearing. Ms. Gruhl, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Cardenas, and then Mr. Reyes. Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Ms. Hahn, because this is a problem that all of us have in our districts, and your motion set in motion the opportunity for us to have this discussion. And we had a very lengthy conversation in our Transportation Committee meeting just a few weeks ago, and your staff was present and DOT to talk about the various options, because we do need to do something that is simple, that allows us, again, some of the flexibility, and what we came up with was this option, I think that your staff also proposed, was identifying specific locations in each of our communities. Because we all know about some places around parks, for example. I've had some very bad problems where we've put in no overnight parking because we had people living and sleeping and having police problems in some of those areas. But you never know the unintended consequences that you have, because in some areas those parks are near apartment buildings and people use that street to park. But not, I mean, I think the RVs is a unique challenge that we have across the city, and from what your staff member said too, that some of your surrounding cities have these bans, and so people are moving them into your district to store them because they aren't allowed to do that in other cities. So I think this is an opportunity for us to try this. Each of you council members, what you can do is, if you have this problem in a specific area, request from the Department of Transportation, and I think the City Council, in fact, I think our staff from DOT, oh, Alan, could you come up for just a second, please? Could you explain to my colleagues the process that they would need to go through to identify a similar location like Ms. Hahn has done from the 2 to 6 a.m. Period to get approval for it to be posted for this kind of no RV overnight parking?
Glenn O'Gora, Department of Transportation. What had been worked out in the Transportation Committee is to put together an ordinance with we assisting the city attorney, which would be a citywide ordinance to ban the overnight parking of oversized vehicles in the city from 2 to 6 a.m. And then what would happen is, by resolution, we would designate specific areas in the city where the ban would take place. And this would be with the support, the council person would introduce the resolution, and then DOT would need to put up signs to designate the entrances to that designated area so that the public knows specifically where the restriction applies.
And colleagues, I don't see our City Attorney Shelley Smith, who's been working with. I mean, the simplest thing we would suggest would be just say no overnight RV parking in the City of Los Angeles. But because of a number of decisions that have been made in the state Supreme Court and others, we can't just do that. We have to have posted signage on those areas where they cannot park their vehicle. So we couldn't necessarily do and that's what she explained to us before. You'd have to have signs on every single street, in essence, to be able to say no overnight RV parking.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So, colleagues, this is, again, a way that we can deal with a problem where people are, indiscriminately leaving their vehicles, storing their vehicles on the street. It can create not only traffic problems, it can create crime problems, and I think also quality of life issues. And so I just want to again thank Ms. Hahn for her leadership on this. We are all benefiting from that here, and look forward to seeing if, again, as we do the pilot or look through Ms. Hahn, if there are changes that we need to make that will impact the citywide. We look forward to that coming back to our committee and to the full council. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Grewal. Mr. Rosendahl is our next speaker, to be followed by Mr. Cardenas and then Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Tell me, how many folks, how many vehicles do you think are out there right now that are in this category that we're talking about?
We don't have an idea of that. It's a matter of whether you can afford the RV vehicle. I mean, there's a certain cost associated with it, but we don't have an idea. We certainly have complaints that come in from the council offices of the problems of visibility. Like Ms. Hahn says, being able to get out of your driveway and being able to turn when you get to a corner because you have a visibility problem of a vehicle parked near the intersection.
Do you have any idea of the percentage of these vehicles that have people living in them?
We've never gone through that process to try to identify that.
Have you talked to the LAPD about that? Because they have some understanding of it.
No, I mean, we've had problems with complaints that have come to us with RV vehicles where people unfortunately have to live in them, and it becomes a social situation more than something of a traffic situation for us.
So then, if we do post 2 to 6 a.m., get the RVs off the streets, and there are people in them, and this is their home, they're on the verge of homelessness, or they live in campers as a lifestyle, or whatever the story may be, what becomes of those vehicles with those people?
They would have to move. Every night, they would have to move somewhere else where the restriction wasn't in place. Because as we proposed in what came out of the Transportation Committee was that the signs would only be posted in an area that was done by resolution by that council member.
And how would we do that resolution? What would be the mechanics of that? By block, by neighborhood, by what percentage of neighbors? How would that work?
We would work with the affected council office as to what is the area of most concern, and if it was one block, if it was a geographical area of maybe 4 major streets, we would do that. So it would be on a case-by-case basis.
The law says you can't sleep in your vehicles right now. Is that correct? If on public streets?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Okay, so basically what we would do, frankly, is move them around to other neighborhoods where there wasn't a complaint lodged, or would we find an area along a certain way where there are no residents? Nobody wants it in their backyard.
Yes.
How would we go about doing that? We would designate areas where they could put their campers or their cars or whatever?
We haven't been involved in that aspect of it, of having to try to find a place for people in that situation.
Okay, colleagues, my position is this. It's pretty simple. We obviously cannot have the campers on the street. There are lots where they go, and this is obvious for people who have, a home and have their camper in front of their home, and it causes disruption. But I challenge the mayor, and I challenge the city, and I challenge the County Board of Supervisors and their whole overall notion of homelessness to come up with a strategy of where campers with people in it and cars with people in it can go. Because I am now moving forward in Venice and in Mar Vista and in other parts of my district, working with my community groups to post certain streets from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. because the issues that the partial homeless type person creates for neighborhood is real. But I don't have an answer of where they go from here. And we need to come up with an organic policy as a city that appreciates people in campers and people in automobiles and find a place for them to go forward with. I will support this motion, but with the caveat that we need leadership on the county level, frankly, to open up some of their facilities, give vouchers, and allow campers and cars that have people in it to go there overnight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Cardenas is our next speaker, and then Mr. Reyes.
Ms. Hahn, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a question on how this came about, because I've had complaints in my district, and I want to thank you for this motion and for this action. But did this come about because you just saw some campers on the street, or did you get complaints from your constituents? How did it come about that you actually moved forward with this motion?
Well, it's actually been an issue that I've been grappling with for a long time, and I do get a lot of complaints in my council office of people saying, what can we do with this large RV that's blocking our view, that's a nuisance in our community? And I always had to say, gee, we have the 72-hour ordinance. They're really not allowed to park there for more than 72 hours, which of course everybody knows is a joke. And I will say that I experienced a near traffic accident where I live with clearly was a visiting relative or friend that parked their RV there for about 2 weeks. Literally, to go around this vehicle, I had to go into oncoming traffic to go around them. And I just kept thinking, this is a traffic safety hazard. It's more than just kind of a visual blight. This presents a real problem. So I just been working with the Department of Transportation to see whether or not we could do something I think it's getting worse. I think people are having more RVs, but they're storing them on residential streets. I don't think that's the purpose of RVs. So that's
Thank you.
how it happened.
Thank you. What you just explained mirrors what's going on in my district. What you just explained is mirroring what's going on in my district and many parts of the city of Los Angeles. And I think that those complaints are legitimate, and I think those complaints are appropriate, that they bring them to the council so that we can take action like this. I've had complaints one step further where we've had some campers that have actually, people have gotten aggressive with the neighbors, and nobody even provoked it. Unfortunately, they had those kinds of problems, which caused a public safety issue from the vantage point of just being able to walk around your neighborhood. And then one of the worst cases is where someone had a camper that was parked against the curb, and they have a bathroom in the camper, and they were just letting the facilities just run into the gutter, which that is a bunch of other violations on top of that. But it's not about saying, aha, you violated it, we're going to ticket you or what have you. I think we need to be proactive like this and make sure that we do our job of making sure that we safeguard certain communities, certain streets from that kind of activity, and then deal with the rest of it. As was mentioned earlier, we can't just put a blanket policy that you can't park on the streets with a camper at any time 24/7. So I think this is an appropriate measure within the confines of the law, and unfortunately I think that we're probably going to have to revisit this as we see that this probably will improve it but will not make it a permanent fix, and then we're going to have other motions. Hopefully we'll continue to work together to improve it, make it a better Los Angeles. Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Reyes, to be followed by Mr. Parks and Ms. Hahn for a second time.
I too want to thank my colleague for putting this on the table and allowing this discussion to occur. I understand that in the LA Municipal Code, it talks about oversized vehicles. Here we're looking at recreational vehicles. But sir, as department rep, this definition, can it be applied to vehicles that are used for commerce, where they're parked on residential streets? Can we apply that to those types of vehicles that are being used for carrying goods to be sold at swap meets, and/or vehicles that are carrying cars as they are laying over for the next day and actually parked on residential streets? Can this sign apply to those type of vehicles?
Yes. What we're going to do is, as has been done in other cities, we're not going to define it as recreational vehicles. Rather, we're going to define it as oversized vehicles. So it's going to have a generic term.
What is the threshold for the definition of oversized? Is it bigger than a...
What they do is different cities use different sizes. So there's a length definition, there's a width definition, and there's a height definitions. What we had done as a part of the report, we had surveyed several of the cities in Southern California. So most of the cities use a length between 20 and 25 feet, and they use a height between 7 and 8 feet, and a width between 7 and 8 feet. We, DOT, are going to work with the city attorney to do a definition where we use the length, width, and height. We have a section in municipal code right now that says any vehicle that is 22 feet or longer parked in a residential street can be cited.
Okay, so if we come up with a different definition to fit the characteristics of those vehicles that are being used for commercial purposes, is that something we could amend in a future date as long as it fits within the code?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do some homework and try to come up with some language that also fits the type of impact we're feeling in my community, where you have folks who are parking literally 3, 4, 5 vans on residential streets. They're pretty large vans. They're transporting goods for their weekend. During the week, they sit there and they take up all the parking. And then you have the other dynamic of car dealerships actually loading up their cars and the big trailers and parking on residential streets for the next day. And they eliminate parking for the folks that actually live on that street. So we need to work maybe on how to apply that condition to this law.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. Our next speaker, and I know he has a special introduction to make as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce a group of young people from Weems Elementary School. Would you please stand? They're located on 36 in Vermont, in the 8th District. They're accompanied by 2 of their teachers, Ray Wong and Edward Wandrick. And we just want to say thank you for coming, and wave so you can see yourself on television tonight on Channel 35. So make sure you smile also. Well, thank you for being here. I would just like to ask on this issue just a couple of questions. This is a citywide ordinance. Can you just walk us through how each district by resolution could be added to or identifying streets that may be impacted?
What will happen is that there will be a citywide ordinance that provides the provision for restricting overnight parking. And then within that, each council district can, by resolution, propose where the designated area is they want to have within their district to have the restriction actually apply.
Okay. Is it done by, can you do it by the entire council district, or is it done by area, or you have to identify specific streets?
We would work with your council office to tailor it to your needs.
Okay, so but you could impact your entire district?
If you wanted to, yes.
Okay, or just major streets, or whatever that configuration you could
Wherever you see the situation as being a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks. Our next speaker is Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I appreciate your support of this initial effort to deal with something that I think has been a problem. Clearly, I think we'll have to look at it. We may have to revisit it after it's been implemented to see whether or not we can improve it. But I will make an amendment to this motion that DOT report back in 30 days on implementing a short-term parking permit system, 48 hours, 72 hours, to allow loading and unloading of these recreational vehicles. And I think that would really make this a better motion. And I would invite Bill Hill or others who, particularly RV owners, who can see potential unintended consequences of this to contact particularly my office, and we can help make an ordinance that really works for everybody but rids the city of a problem that we've dealt with for a long time. So thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. Can you please prepare the roll on this item and tabulate the vote?
14 ayes.
That item is approved. And that is our last item, Mr. Clerk. Any
Yes,
housekeeping?
council has motions for posting and referral.
All right, those are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Cardenas requests to be excused to leave at 11:15 on Wednesday, April 19th, and for the entire meeting of Friday, June 23rd, both for city business. A motion is required.
Okay, Ms. Gruhl moves and Ms. Hahn seconds. There's no objection, unanimous vote, and Mr. Cardenas is excused.
Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused on Friday, April 21st, and Tuesday and Wednesday, April 25th, 26th, for personal business. Those meet council policy.
Mr. Padilla is excused.
Councilmember Gruhl requests to be excused Friday, March 31st, to leave at 12:45 and to leave at 11:30 on Wednesday, April 19th, both for personal business. A motion is required.
Mr. Reyes moves, Mr. Smith seconds. If there is no objection, that'll be unanimous vote, and the excuse is granted.
Councilmember Parks, request be excused March 28th and 29th for city business. A motion is required.
Okay, Mr. Padilla will move and Mr. Weezer will second. If there's no objection, unanimous vote, that excuse is granted.
And Councilmember Hahn, request be excused Friday, April 21st for city business. That meets council policy.
Okay, Ms. Hahn is excused.
The desk is clear.
All right, colleagues, any announcements? General announcements? Mr. Padilla?
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we had a great discussion yesterday regarding the Joint Commission on LAUSD governance. I just want to announce a couple of the upcoming meetings that they're having. The next meeting of the commission is set for tomorrow, March 23rd, from 4 to 8 p.m. At the Metropolitan Water District headquarters in their boardroom, which is right at Union Station, so folks can take the red line, Mr. Labange, to come down to that meeting. The next outreach meeting, as they're making their rounds throughout the school district, is set for next Tuesday, March 28th at the Marvin Browdy Center. So if you live in the Valley and want to talk education, come on out Tuesday, March 28th at 6:30 p.m. at the Browdy Center, first floor conference room. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla, and we'll be making this announcement a number of times, but we want to let folks know that April 7th will be the first meeting during regular scheduled hours at Van Nuys City Hall, and we welcome folks to come down on April 7th and be a part of that as well. Other announcements? Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, just a quick announcement. The youngest council member of the city council is getting older. Mr. Alex Padilla is now, 33 today?
His birthday, all right. Happy birthday, Mr. Padilla.
Happy birthday, old man. Happy birthday, Alex Padilla.
Happy birthday, Alex, from all your colleagues. No matter how young he is, he's always getting older. So, any other announcements, colleagues? All right. Do folks have any adjourning motions? Are there any adjourning motions? Okay. If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise for adjourning motions. You can please ask everybody's attention and silence for adjourning motions. Mr. Weezer?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we adjourn today in memory of our 14th Council resident, Stephen Chico. He was a resident of the city of Los Angeles for over 83 years and passed away on Monday, March 20th, 2006. He was born on December 26, 1922, to Miguel and Angelita Chico, who emigrated from Mexico in 1920. Stephen graduated from Lincoln High School, joined the Army Air Corps, and saw combat in Europe during World War II. He retired from the Department of Water and Power in 1991 after 32 years of service. As an accomplished swing dancer and longtime member of the West Coast Swing Club, he won many contests. He was very proud of his family and all of their accomplishments. The Chico family, longtime friends of Mayor Villaraigosa and former Councilmember Richard Alatorre, had been dedicated to community and public service. He was predeceased by brothers Richard, Gilbert, and Benjamin Chico, and his sister Esther Burgueno. He is survived by his children, Christine, Stephen, and Mary Louise, daughter-in-law Rose, caregivers Desiree and Brandon House, and many beloved grandchildren.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. Other adjourning motions? Mr. Parks?
Mr. President, I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of Edith Orwego, who was a constituent of the 8th District, unfortunately and very recently was perished in a fatal fire that occurred at her home on Exposition Boulevard at 3854 South Walton on Sunday, March the 12th. She was 53 years old.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Reyes?
I'd like to join Councilman Weezer on his adjournment, if that's okay.
Okay. Mr. Wesson?
Mr. President, I was in the back taking a photograph. Can I do announcements?
Sure, of course,
what
please.
I have to say with a loose interpretation of announcements that this will work. I want to announce my pleasure with all of the members of this council in adjourning yesterday in the honor of our dear friend Marco Antonio Fireball. And I want to say that over the past 48 hours in my life, it's been hellish with believing that my wife had a serious condition and then finding out that it's not, she's going to be fine, and then to find out shortly thereafter, within moments, that I lost my dear friend. So as I was extremely happy because of my wife for 25 years, I was saddened because of Mr. Fireball, so I wanted to announce this. The only thing members, staff, whoever's listening on the council phone or watching us on 35, the only thing we can count on is this second, and this second, and this second. We don't know if we have 900 million seconds. So, please, call your moms. Call your fathers and your dear friends and your sons. Tell them you love them, or just talk to them about nothing. The last time I saw Mr. Fireball, he was right over here in the council chambers, and my massive 146 frame body grabbed and engulfed him, and he felt as though he was a kid. And I looked at him, and I could tell that he wasn't well. And I said, you know what, Marco, let's get together and let's go to lunch or breakfast. And he said, Herbie, I look forward to that. Call me. I did not call. I thought I had 900 million seconds. And maybe I do. But he did not. So please, you don't want to feel the way that I feel in knowing I could have had one more conversation with somebody that I loved. So call your mothers, call your fathers, call your friends. We only have this second, and this second. Thank you for that indulgence, Mr. President.
No, thank you for your words, Mr. Wesson. Any other adjourning motions? If not, on that wise note, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. This meeting of the Los Angeles City Council is adjourned. We will next meet on Friday, March 24th, 2006. We will be here at 10 a.m., colleagues. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.